Live, ladies and gentlemen, Graham Hancock, a whirlwind tour across nations for many months, and you're finally here in November 2013. Today's date is the 13th, and you've been rocking it hard since September.
I have been on the road since the second day of September. Between and betwixt, I've had maybe like 5 days at home. But the rest of the time I've been traveling. I've been in Turkey. I've been all over Turkey. Amazing country. My first ever visit to Turkey.
Did you go to Göbekli Tepe?
I went to Göbekli Tepe. I spent more than a week at Göbekli Tepe. I met Klaus Schmidt, who's the actually rather decent German archaeologist who's excavating Göbekli Tepe. I very rarely get on with archaeologists, but I got on with Klaus Schmidt. I don't think he knew who I was, but somehow he was charming, and he gave us a lot of access to the site. He let Santa get right in amongst the pillars and photograph them, and we had a good time. So we were there, and then took the opportunity of being in Turkey to travel over a lot of the rest of the country. There's some cool stuff there. There's like what they call underground cities, which go down 8-10 stories under the earth. The idea was that people built them to hide from their enemies, but in my opinion, the last thing you'd want to do if you were hiding from your enemies is wall yourself up in some underground place where all they have to do is just put a stone across the door and you're done for. I think they had some other function than that. And we drove all over Turkey, saw a lot of amazing stuff, came back to England briefly, then went straight to Peru and Bolivia, up in the high Andes. Reached a place in a hired car, 15,000 feet above sea level, just over 15,000 feet. That's seriously high. Short of breath up there. Yeah. And that was on the way to a site called Chavin de Huantar, where they venerated psychedelics in ancient times. And also visited Tiwanaku in the Andes, in Bolivia, where I've been a number of times before. Fantastic place. Came back from there. Went to South Africa, spent 5 days in South Africa, got on a plane immediately after returning from South Africa and came to the United States, and I've been in the U.S. for the last two and a half weeks.
Wow. We got to get you some vitamins, sir.
I need vitamins.
We really need to get you. Do you follow a healthy diet?
Well, I in a way, I don't eat meat. I don't eat. Maybe that's not healthy. I don't eat red meat. I don't eat chicken. But I pick on shrimps and scallops and things like that. Otherwise, I'm a vegetarian.
So fish and vegetables.
I don't eat fish. It has a backbone. I don't eat things.
Interesting.
I don't eat things with backbones. Only.
Wow. What brought this about? Well, was it an ayahuasca trip?
No. But way back in 1986, when I was 36 years old, I realized that I didn't enjoy meat very much. So I thought, why don't I become a vegetarian? I became a vegetarian. Went on for years and years and years. Then I got bored. I got seriously bored with vegetarian diet, and I'd always liked shrimps and scallops and shellfish of all kinds, lobster, stuff like that. So I went back and I lapsed, and I started eating shellfish. And that's kind of where I drew the line, that I would eat as far away from myself as possible, but I would definitely have some flesh. And so I pick on these creatures. There's no particular moral reason for it. It's just what I like to do.
It seems a bit moral, though, if you're trying to eat things that are as far away from...
I suppose so. But wouldn't it be ironic if I were to discover when I pass through the veil to the next world that the one thing that you're not allowed to eat ever is shrimps? Imagine that.
I highly doubt there's some dietary requirements.
I highly doubt it, too.
Everything is temporary. I mean, we don't... Part of, I think, what's great about being a vegetarian or being a vegan is that you don't want to take a life.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's
very
kind
much.
of what it comes down to for me.
I appreciate that very much. However, lives are taken no matter what.
All the time.
And you take life when you eat vegetables.
Yeah.
You just take a different type of life.
Hey,
life
I'm wearing a
life.
leather belt right now.
Yeah.
I'm wearing leather shoes. I took life.
Life eats life.
Yeah.
And it's not just animal life, but plant life and fungal life and all these. I mean, I see the point. I just think it's a little short-sighted and utopian. The view is just a little delusional. But I appreciate the thought and the sentiment behind it.
To be honest, if I really enjoyed meat, even chicken or red meat, if I really enjoyed it, I would eat it. But I don't. I never got much out of it. I was always a bit squeamish about the blood, and I never really wanted to eat it. So I kind of felt it's a waste. I get no pleasure from this stuff. So why should I eat it anyway? That's why I say it's not entirely a moral thing.
Right.
It's partly just a matter of preference as well. But I agree with you. I mean, everything in the web of life on this planet lives off everything else. I think maybe in our society, in Western technological society, we've got so divorced from the act of actually killing an animal that we forget what we're doing. We forget what's involved. It's all very packaged and sanitized, and it's easy to forget what's involved in it. That some creature is dying, and in our culture, a pretty unpleasant, miserable death.
I agree, and I think that separation is very immoral. That separation between us and our food. To try to reconcile that, I've recently taken up hunting. I went hunting last year for the first time and got a deer and killed it and gutted it and quartered it and all that jazz. And eating it was incredibly satisfying. And also knowing that where I went, these animals, they're not going to make it. No animal makes it. What the idea is, you just breed as quickly as you can. Yeah. Your children live for a couple of years, and then they get taken out by mountain lions or coyotes or the winter. They either freeze to death or what have you. But it's a constant cycle. Yeah. And what I did is just dip into that cycle.
I think that's. I have no problem with that, and it's much better actually go hunt an animal rather than the horrible cold industrial slaughterhouses that we have now, and the fear and humiliation that animals are put through in that context. At least in hunting, it's kind of 1-to-1, and you are out there. You're actually killing what you eat. And
the animal lives an entirely wild, natural life until the moment you pull that trigger. Yeah. There's no artificial environment that it lives in. There's no hormones that are introduced into its body, no antibiotics. There's nothing unnatural about it at all. Yeah. Just the bullet hits it, and that's gone, and it's over. And it's over, And it's virtually painless, because when a bullet hits an animal like that, I mean, it's so fast and so quick, they don't even know what happened. They try to run, and then they're done.
And they're done, yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to do it this year, by the end of this year, I want to make my diet, when I'm home, when I can control it, completely wild game. That's my goal.
Wild game which you will hunt?
Yes, which I will hunt.
Right.
Yeah, and for me and for my whole family. And I have this mapped out. This year I want to get deer, I want to get a bison, I want to get an elk, I want to get all these various animals and just do it entirely to procure meat and to bring it back home and deep freeze it, and to make sure that I always have wild, natural meat available if I want to eat it. Well, before I went hunting, I decided that I'm either going to be a vegetarian after this trip. I'm either going to decide that this is like really not me, that I don't really like it, or I'm going to become a hunter. So I became a hunter.
Right.
I enjoy it. I've always liked meat, but I think it's also because I participate so much in like really strenuous exercise, jiu-jitsu and martial arts, and
which requires you to have some protein in your body. There's no doubt about it.
It makes me crave it. I don't know if I need it. I know there's many people that work out very hard, that go on a completely plant-based diet. But for me, I don't know. Whatever. I think I need it.
It varies from person to person. But the hunting that you do, or that you did to get this animal, are you out there in nature? Is it what's the scene? How does it work?
I went to. Well, I'm going next week, actually. But the first time I went to Montana, the Badlands of Montana, actually where Lewis and Clark went down the Missouri River. It was fascinating because it's incredibly wild. I mean, we
America
were there.
Is a wild land. There's a lot of wild lands in America. Yeah.
Especially Montana, because you can't grow out there. So homesteaders tried to make these homes out there and live, and we took these photos of them. I should have brought some photos back, but we took photos of these old homestead sites from the 1800s, and they're just rotted out. Nobody could grow anything out there. And then the Indians, the natives, wound up killing a lot of people. There was a lot of between the Nez Perce and all these people that lived there. And the time we were there for about 5 days, and maybe we saw 5 or 6 other people the entire time, and they were just people going down the river in canoes, doing the same thing, hunting.
So you're having a wilderness experience.
Yeah, there's a photo of it up there. That's what it looked like. It was completely wild. No cell phone service, no internet, no nothing. Sleeping in a tent for 5 days. Very, very intense. Very refreshing too. Like that was one of the things that I found fascinating about it. Going to bed when it got dark, getting up in the morning when it got light. No cell phone service. No internet. No dealing with social media. None of the nonsense that we're constantly inundated with on a daily basis. I enjoyed it very much.
But you're not hunting an animal that can hunt you back.
That's true.
There
But the
are-
animals that can hunt you back are not really
They're not
for
really
eating.
edible.
I mean, you can eat some of them.
Yeah.
I guess you can eat grizzly bear, like some people
Yeah.
in Montana or
Yeah.
in Alaska eat grizzly.
Yeah.
I think they make grizzly jerky out of it, and
Yeah.
some parts you can eat.
Yeah.
Mountain lion, you can eat the loin
Right.
of a mountain lion, apparently.
Not really delicious.
It's not the best.
No.
Game animals are essentially animals that are all running from predators,
Yeah.
and you just take part in that.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
get into the scramble.
You know, in South Africa, in the Kalahari Desert, of Namibia, the Bushmen there, they will run animals down.
Persistence
They will
hunting.
run them down. They
Yeah.
will run them down. They will run for like 12 hours.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
running until finally the animal just says, "I'm done."
Yeah,
You know?
I've watched that. I've
Yeah.
watched that on videos online. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
amazing.
Native Americans used to do that as well. Human beings are a rare animal in that we can't outrun animals. We can't like outspeed them, but we can keep going.
Yeah.
We can keep going for a long time.
Right.
And some animals just overheat.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
can't sweat.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're designed for like these quick sprints to get away from trouble. But if we're just persistent and we keep after them, there's a podcast that I've been listening to that it was recommended by one of the nurses at the Regina Keen, however you say it, the laboratory where I'm going to get this blood work done. It's called Radio Lab, and it dealt with this one particular tribe in Kenya that has so many successful runners
Right.
from this one particular area, and they were trying to figure out. They did all these studies to try to figure out what made them so successful, and there were several factors. One of them was their body shape. One of them was the fact that they ran to and from school on a regular basis. They were constantly running. But the other one was this unbelievably brutal tribal ritual, this coming of age ritual
Right.
that the men and the women went through that involved genital mutilation. With the men, it involved circumcision with a sharp stick, and they would cover their face with mud while they did this. And if they cracked the mud, if they like squinted or winced in pain, then they would be labeled a coward, and they would not have access to women. They would they would be cut out of the economic situation in the tribe. It's the most recent Radio Lab, folks. So if you, it was recommended to me.
This happens to these young men in just entering puberty, or something
At 13,
like that? 13,
between
yeah.
13 and I think 17, they said they circumcise them with a stick.
Ah.
Not only that, they keep this foreskin on,
Yeah.
and they tie it in a bow, and they push the head of the penis through this bow, and this whole ritual takes several weeks.
Yeah.
In which time they're secluded, and when they leave the hut, they're like secluded in this hut. When they leave the hut to do anything, they're not allowed to walk. They must run at full pace. It also involves crawling through stinging nettles naked. They have to crawl through these stinging nettle bushes. The idea is just to completely control your ability to withstand pain.
They're going to be tough bastards. At the end of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
fascinating. It's like this perfect storm of they have an innate natural athletic ability based on their frame,
Yeah.
and then it's also the running on a regular basis, and then also
Yeah.
the intense ability to withstand pain. Absolutely fascinating stuff.
Well, again, I mean, this is all stuff in our culture that we've kind of completely got away from, set behind us. We don't even interrelate with that at all anymore, and it makes you wonder. I mean, if the shit hits the fan and our culture goes down, who can survive? Actually,
I think we're just going to go back to if the shit does hit the fan, and I know that's a huge topic of your work, and what brought me to you in the first place was your work on the very clear evidence that at certain points in history the shit clearly did hit the fan, and people did have to rebuild. I watch a lot of shows on subsistence living, in mostly in Alaska. There's a lot of these shows. Life Below Zero is my new favorite one, and it's all based on these people living this. One of them is this man who lives with this Inuit woman, and they just fish and hunt, and their family lives off of this, and it's absolutely fascinating. Every day is spent acquiring food, and they're hardly growing anything because it's so cold.
Right.
So everything is just about catching fish, hunting animals, preserving these animals in whatever way, whether drying or and it's an amazingly brutal life, but they seem to be very happy.
Yeah.
And this is one of the really confusing aspects of this real traditional sort of subsistence living, that people seem to
People are
feel
happy.
satisfied by
Yeah.
it.
It's kind of something we were meant to do, maybe, in a way.
I don't know if it's meant to, but it seems like we evolved to do it.
Well, you have to consider that for, anatomically modern humans, as far as we know, have been around for slightly less than 200,000 years. And for almost all of that period, that's what we did.
Yeah.
That's what we did. We're just really, as you know, at least if we go with mainstream history, and certainly it's true for the majority of the human race, whether we go with mainstream history or not, it's really only in the last 10, 12,000 years that we've been doing anything else apart from hunting and gathering.
Yeah, it's a long time, and we've tried to upset that over the last 200 years with machines and electricity and all these different things. But we long for that.
Created a fundamentally artificial way of life.
And so quickly.
Yeah, very rapidly.
It seems like our genetics just have not been able to catch up with the actual environment.
Yeah, but it was supposed. The irony of it is that all this development, all this amazing technology, all these machines, all this gear, all this equipment, but somehow the promise was it would make us happier, and it didn't. It didn't make us happier. It made us much less happy.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever was the promise.
Well, it was the promise. I mean, I remember with computers back in the 80s, before computers really, early 80s, late 70s, the idea was that, if the computer came in, that we would just have all this endless leisure. We would have a life of complete relaxation. There would be the problem would be actually filling our leisure. But that has not turned out to be the case. Yeah. Everybody's lives are taken up with the computer, the iPhone, the email. All the time. You could never get away from it. It's constantly demanding your time. Emails, hundreds of emails a day. Sometimes I have this huge sort of burden of guilt about emails that I don't answer, which sit there in my email list. I cannot answer them all.
It's impossible. I gave up a few years ago trying to answer them. I try to respond to a few tweets a day if possible. But while doing things, especially providing as much content as I do with podcasts and creating comedy and all that, there's no time for that.
You can't become a full-time letter writer.
Yeah, that literally would be what you would do.
Yeah.
You would be dusk till dawn doing that, and then sleeping and starting all over again, and you still would never catch up.
You'd never catch up.
Especially if you gave it a real, honest reply. Like if it was a complex discussion that somebody wanted to have with you.
Yeah.
You're not going to get there.
Yeah. I face the same problem, probably in a smaller level than you, but like Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, I find, it's a very useful thing. It's a very positive thing. I do like interacting with my Facebook community, but I can't interact that much. I try to put up posts. I try to put up new material. People make interesting comments. Sometimes those comments are really valuable to me. I get a link to something I didn't know about, and I go look at that. But to respond to every comment when you have 300, 500, 1,000, 1,500 comments on a post, it's impossible. It's just impossible. To do that.
That is a weird thing about our time. I think that's a stage that we're going through. That'll be. I think whatever comes next will probably be even crazier and even more impossible to deal with.
Halfway to telepathy right now.
Yes. That's what I think. I think there'll be some sort of a technologically created symbiotic relationship that allows us to communicate. Yeah. Some symbiotic thing where I think we're already kind of symbiotic with certain aspects of technology. Glasses. I mean, glasses are essentially a technology that's a part of your life. I mean, you wear it on your head all day, right?
Yeah, I do.
Cell phone, I mean, it might as well be attached to me because I'm scared if I leave it anywhere.
Yeah.
If I leave it in my car and I go to the mall, I'm like, oh, it's in the car. It's by itself. My phone is alone. Yeah, these are weird times. Weird times when it comes to this stage that we're in. We're obviously progressing towards an even greater connectivity with our technology.
Yeah. Which, in some ways, is a very good thing. What I find again with Facebook, with the internet, is suddenly the whole world is talking. We're talking to each other.
Yes.
It doesn't actually matter what national boundaries you have or where you grew up or what your religion is. You're in communication with people from all over the world, and communities of ideas tend to kind of gravitate together, and people share thoughts and ideas. This, as far as we know, is a new development for the human race to do this on a global scale. And some shit comes out of it, but also I think a lot of good stuff is coming out of it. And it is challenging. It is challenging the status quo in the world today. It is very threatening to the powers that be, that people can communicate directly with one another. I remember a time as an author when I depended heavily on the big media to be heard about, to be known at all. If I'd written a new book, how could anybody know I'd written it unless one of the big newspapers or a big TV station or somebody covered it? I don't give a shit about that now. I don't need those people anymore. You know, I can communicate directly with people who are interested in my work.
And the big media companies or whoever influenced them could remove a book from the market, and then that subject is gone.
Yeah.
John Marco Allegro's book was a perfect example.
Exactly.
The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross.
Yeah, fantastic book.
Yeah, and if you've never read it, John Marco Allegro was a biblical scholar and a linguist who also happened to be an ordained minister. He was one of the guys who was assigned to decipher the Dead Sea Scrolls, did it for 14 years, and wrote this amazing book which basically said that the entire religion of Christianity originally was about consuming psychedelic mushrooms and fertility rituals.
Yeah, exactly.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And they removed it. I mean, that book was gone.
They didn't like the message at all.
Yeah, Jan Irvin has worked to republish it, and it's available again now. But for the longest time, that book was gone. You had to find... I own 2 copies of it that I bought used, and they were very expensive. You had to buy them from, some strange book company that... found them.
So this is something the big media can't do anymore.
Can't do it anymore.
And the interest they serve, they cannot do it anymore.
You could find something, tweet it, take a picture of it. Say if you were in Turkey and you found something unique, you could take a picture of that, tweet it, and link an article to your website. Boom. Put whatever you found on your website, and then within moments, thousands of people would be downloading it and trading it, and it would just, in a frenzy, spread across the world.
I've been doing that. I've been making a point on my travels of putting up a picture and putting up my immediate reaction to something that I've seen, and it produces a lot of reaction, and again it's it goes 2 ways, because when people communicate with me, I learn from them. It's not just that I'm giving people stuff. I'm getting stuff back all the time, and I appreciate that.
I have these conversations with people that I meet at shows all the time. Well, they'll say, "Oh, the podcast changed my life, and thank you so much." It changed my life too, and my interaction with these people has changed my life as much as it's changed their life. The information that I get on a daily basis from people on Twitter informs me in a way that I've never been informed before. Constant, all day long. I mean, every day I'm getting all these new stories that are tweeted to me, and I retweet the fascinating ones as much as I can, but it's a never-ending stream.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. I love it. I'm so indebted. I'm so happy. I feel so obligated. The whole connection is a very rewarding connection for me as well.
Well, as a matter of fact, you are doing something quite special. I mean, I've been on the road, and it's amazing the people that I meet, whether it's in South Africa, whether it's in some Midlands city in Britain, whether it's in upstate New York, who listen to Joe Rogan. You're reaching a lot of people that way, and this is special. And it's eye-opening. Actually.
It's an amazing connection that we have. It's amazing to be able to do what we're doing, and it's a new thing. I mean, it never happened before. It wasn't around.
This way, it's possible to change the world. Yeah. Everybody says no, the world is too big, the power structure is too great, nothing can be changed, nothing can be altered. But I don't think so. I'm really optimistic. I think good things are coming. There's an awakening going on.
I am as well. I'm very optimistic just based on the people that I've met that have told me they've changed their life. I've met no bullshit, at least 30 or 40 people that told me they lost 100 pounds after they listened to this podcast.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Just people that just changed their diet, started exercising, and started getting their blood pumping and feeling better, and started thinking positively, surrounding themselves with positive people. And that, if that could be done on that scale, that can spread virally.
It totally can, and that's a real measurable change in somebody's life. That's setting aside ill health and discomfort and moving on to something better and more positive.
And I've talked to maybe 50 or so people that have started their own podcast because of this podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm hugely encouraging of that, because I think there's no difference. I mean, if you're a curious person, you speak a language that other people understand, and you find information online, you want to discuss it, start a fucking podcast. Why not?
Exactly.
I mean, if it catches on, it catches on. And if it doesn't catch on, keep going until it does catch on.
The way I see it, though, it's really interesting looking at your story. Okay, I mean, so you've got this fighter background, MMA. I don't know a lot about it, but it stands for mixed martial arts, right?
Yes.
And UFC?
Yes.
What does that
Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Ultimate Fighting Championship. And that goes back into your youth.
Yes.
A long way. I saw a little clip of you just kicking somebody. I don't know, so fast. It was incredible to see that. So you've got all of that, and I meet a lot of people who are interested in that. My son-in-law, for example, is a mixed martial arts fighter, and a really hugely important part of his life. But at the same time, you're combining it with this extraordinary interest in psychedelics and social change and all of these radical ideas. And intuitively, one would not immediately think that somebody who's into mixed martial arts fighting would be also into radical philosophical ideas. But it's precisely the combination of those two things that is really attractive, I think.
Well, I think that the intuition or intuitively that it wouldn't be is just because people don't understand what martial arts really are.
Right.
And what a martial art really is the path that you go through in becoming excellent at a martial art is just developing your human potential. That's all it is.
Right.
And in seeking the truth about yourself and your own character, like as we were talking about those Kenyan men who endure extreme pain and they become stronger because of that. They become something special because of that. That seeking truth through martial arts is along the same lines. It's doing something incredibly difficult, and in doing that, you grow as a person. And then in seeking that truth about your character, seeking that truth about your determination, your willpower, your focus, your discipline, you also start to seek truth in everything else around you, in your government, in your relationships, in your all various aspects of your life. Your diet, you see the relationship between your diet and your health, and all these different things, they do fall into each other.
They do.
Psychedelics, all of them.
Psychedelics,
Philosophy.
absolutely, because in many ways there is no more challenging adventure or experience that one can have. I mean, there's all kind of wilderness experiences one can have, but a deep journey with a powerful psychedelic is going to challenge you in every possible level as a human being. And it requires incredible will and strength to deal with it. This is what a lot of people who don't work with psychedelics, who are just brainwashed by the whole war on drugs thing, don't understand. This is a deep personal journey which requires strength of character to fulfill.
Without a doubt. I've done some terrifying things in my life, but the moment before you light the lighter that fires up the DMT is one of the most terrifying moments of all time.
I totally agree.
Especially if you've been there and you know what's coming. You're like, whoa, here we go. Yeah. 15 minutes in a rocket to the center of the universe, and swarming with colors and geometric patterns and truth and fear
and entities. Yeah. Yeah, I share that. I mean, the last time I smoked DMT was in end of September 2011. I haven't smoked it since and I will, but I had such a well, the word terrifying doesn't do it justice to what happened to me. It was just the single hugest ordeal that I have ever confronted in my life. And after you've been through an ordeal like that, you kind of think twice about just leaping back into it again. But I learned a lot from it. It was hugely beneficial, and to survive that and to come back from it, you gather your strength from experiences like that. And that's why I think our society is foolish to try to just sanitize everything and not allow people to undergo these profound and important experiences. We should be creating structures where it is possible for people to have those experiences, and where they don't need to feel afraid of the law about it, and where they can challenge themselves in that way with good advice and with wise and loving care surrounding that situation.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about today's internet and these exchanges like we're having right now, is it lets people know what these experiences really are about and what the potential these experiences actually do hold, because we're the victim of massive propaganda that has been going on for decades and decades, and it's
maybe
really
even for thousands of years.
It's confused some really intelligent people.
Yeah.
I've had some really disappointing conversations with guys like Michio Kaku, who, talking about mushrooms giving you brain damage. I'm like, all right,
such shit.
It's just so silly.
Such complete shit.
And such a brilliant man. Otherwise, it's like.
Yeah, but the brainwashing goes very deep.
Yeah,
and it's as though it presses a button in certain people that they actually just rational faculties shut down, and they cannot react to the subject in an intelligent way anymore. I do find this again and again. It is a huge problem.
It's a self-preservation issue as well for people that are professionals, because if you're a professional in any sort of anything where you're being judged or you're being looked at as possibly immediately, oh, we're looking at you for possible promotion, but we
Yeah.
heard what are you doing, mushrooms in the desert?
Yeah.
What the fuck, Bob?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
ruining the whole career, pal.
Yeah, yeah.
You're on the fast track.
Yeah, exactly. People are in danger of destroying their careers if that comes out. I mean, that's where I guess you and I have some advantage, because we have careers that cannot get ruined by doing that.
It can only help. Yeah, if I get caught with a bag of mushrooms at the airport, I get a bump. Everything's great.
Right.
People get excited, and my Twitter explodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not flying with mushrooms, but
No.
my point being that, and if you're honest about it, look, if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing because it's harming someone, and people find out about it, the repercussions are real, and they should be.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something like psychedelics that harm no one, and they're actually, and then you can have a rational discussion about the benefits that you've had from them, that helps people. It really does.
It totally helps people, and I find this again and again, and that's the crucial distinction: is are you doing something which is harmful to others, which impinges upon the sovereignty of others, which makes the life of another person less rather than more? And the answer is, with taking psychedelics, no, you're not.
Right.
You're not doing that. That's an inner experience. That's your own experience. And as I've said many times, I mean, we have plenty of laws that deal with doing negative stuff to other people. We do not need laws that seek to govern, control, manage, limit our consciousness. This is the heart of the matter.
We're starting to see in our lifetime these centers in Mexico. My friend Ed Clay runs one in Mexico, and I know there's some in Canada as well, where they have these ibogaine centers where people are going and completely curing themselves from opiates.
Yeah.
Opiate addictions, for folks who don't know, are a huge problem in this country. I have lost a couple of friendships. One that went horribly wrong because I know the guy was on a bunch of different pills from a bunch of different doctors, and I just couldn't deal with him anymore. I had to get him out of my life. Blaming other people for all of his failures, constantly woe is me, and just on pills all the time.
And these are prescribed pills.
Yes.
These are legal pills.
He had a back injury, and he went to one doctor in one state and then moved to California and started going to another doctor, and then having both guys send him prescriptions and taking both 2 times the amount of pills. And if you take a prescribed dose of opiate pills, you're very likely to get addictive.
Yeah.
Even with a prescribed dose, it's
Sure.
a really difficult time to get off of them,
Yeah.
especially if you're facing some significant pain.
Yeah.
You just had a hip replacement. Did they prescribe you any?
Yeah, they did. I was given, but nothing extremely strong, but codeine, which is an opiate.
NyQuil. That's what NyQuil used to have in it, right?
Does it?
It used to. I believe so. I believe NyQuil had codeine.
I mean, codeine is actually a highly addictive drug. It's there's no doubt it is addictive. In Britain, they often mix it with paracetamol, which is a less strong painkiller. And if you take those 2 pills in combination, you can get addicted to it within a week or 10 days. And it's the codeine that you're getting addicted to, but it's the paracetamol that's really going to totally screw up your liver, in the long run. And it's stunning actually that the big pharmaceutical companies are allowed to do this. They're allowed to deliberately addict people, to hook people on very powerful drugs that really have very little benefit. I mean, to be honest, if I had some terrible cancer, some terrible pain, some terrible suffering, I would be very interested in exploring opium or even heroin, as a matter of fact. I think that nature has been kind to us. It's provided us with certain plants that can help us with pain. And it reaches a stage may reach a stage in life where you're terminal. Why suffer that? Why suffer that terrible agony? It would be interesting perhaps to sort of bliss out a bit on that. But to take it regularly, daily for small and minor pain, this is a huge mistake. It's not what it's for.
There's a new snail toxin that they've discovered that is 100 times more effective than opiates and is non-addictive.
Oh, wow.
And they're trying to figure out a way. This new drug is from the cone snail venom. And it's 100 times more potent than any existing pain medication and completely non-addictive. And they're coming up with this snail venom in a pill form that would just completely eliminate pain.
I can see the big drug companies not wanting to do that.
They'll probably run out with a hammer and smash every snail that exists.
Smash every snail. Yeah.
get in cahoots with some company to spray some shit all over the areas where these snails live and just whack them out all in one big.
They want to keep us addicted.
Well, the amount of money. I mean, people would say that that's a ridiculous thing. Like, no, that's not what people do. But the amount of money you're talking about is absolutely staggering.
Vast and enormous.
Billions upon billions every month.
Yeah. And you were talking about opiate addictions, of which the vast majority are addictions to prescribed pills. But then there's also heroin addiction, and again ibogaine, and in fact ayahuasca, astonishingly successful in getting people off these addictions
in a very weird way. I'm not sure the exact mechanism of ibogaine, but the people that have taken it have told me that it's both. It physically removes the addiction, and more importantly, psychologically alerts you to all the factors that have contributed to your shitty decision-making in the first place.
That's it exactly.
All the errors in your thinking, all the errors in your personality that have led you to this path that you're just trying to numb life with these pills.
Yeah. It's like a teaching that you get, and that's the mystery of these plants, actually, the teacher plants. Particularly the two plants that go into the ayahuasca brew and then iboga, they're probably the most powerful in this respect. Is that there's a sense of an encounter with an intelligence which communicates with you, which gets right to the root of your personal issue, and shows it to you and says, well, I mean, I've had some experience with this myself, and shows it to you and says, this is actually how you are, and you think, fuck, I never realized that, really. I hid that from myself for so long.
The ego.
And that revelation is extremely helpful in handling an addiction.
And no one's protecting you by making ibogaine illegal. No one's protecting you from anything other than you getting cured from these illnesses and realizing the issues that you have in your life and in your personality.
It's yet another example of the fact that we live in a society that is completely insane. Our society is actually crazy. It's crazy. It's run by crazy people in pursuit of crazy motives. And it is designed to diminish human potential. I don't think it's accident. I think it's actually deliberately designed to minimize human potential. By who? Well, I mean, this is where I have to get into something like Gnosticism, which has been a long-term interest of mine, and the idea that there is I don't want to use the word divine in terms of God, because I don't go with God particularly. I do go with mystery, but that there's a divine spark in human beings, and that there has been a project for thousands of years to deny us the opportunity to realize that part of ourselves, the spiritual essence of ourselves, and to keep us chained in matter and locked in the material realm. And what we see in modern society is two things going on side by side. One is so-called materialist science, which tells us that there is nothing else to reality except the stuff that you can weigh and measure and count. And any thought that there might be spirit, that consciousness, for example, might not be generated by the brain, might not be local to the brain, any such thought is supposed to be, according to materialist science, complete nonsense. And then there's the actual materialism, which tries to persuade us through all manner of media and the way our society is run, that our sole purpose as creatures is to produce and consume, and that we have no other function here on this planet, and that we are to define ourselves and measure ourselves in terms of our production and consumption. Is
that really what we're being taught, or is that just something that people find easy? That producing and consuming is just easy. It's exciting. Get a new car. It's exciting. Get a new TV. That's exciting. Work and you can wear clothes that this guy can't wear. Ooh, exciting. I think there's something to that is just a natural aspect of being a human being and constantly having this desire for improvement and progress. And we measure that improvement and progress erroneously with objects.
I mean, there was a culture of Native American Indians. I forget the name of the tribe, who had this ceremony called the potlatch, which happened like once a year, and their project, that what they had to do was the more things you could burn, that showed that you were a really big guy. You know, you just complete the ultimate conspicuous consumption is you take all these possessions and burn them, not because you're despising them, but because you're rich enough to just burn all this stuff.
Oh, that's so stupid. I thought it was to free yourself from those objects.
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not.
Yeah, the consciousness not being projected from the human mind is a very confusing one to me, because I see their point and I see your point.
Yeah.
I see what I see is I don't think that we know enough about consciousness itself to define what's going on.
We can't be sure.
I think it is possible that the mind could be some form of antenna. I don't know that. I think it's pretty clear that if you injure certain parts of the mind, it affects certain aspects of cognitive function. I think that's pretty clear.
It's pretty clear, yeah. And that's true on antenna too. If you damage an antenna, the picture on the TV screen is affected.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You fuck up a radio,
Yeah.
the insides of a radio. It doesn't mean that the signal's not still out there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just not getting in right.
Yeah, yeah.
There's that. And there was a fascinating debate recently between Richard Dawkins and Deepak Chopra, which it was quite hilarious because Richard Dawkins is a very brilliant guy, but he's also kind of cunty. He gets a little cunty. Maybe rightly so. I mean, he's had to deal with so much quackery and fuckery his whole life, and he's been a rabid atheist for the longest time.
But he's made a career out of that.
Yes, he has.
He's made a big career out of that.
But one of the things that Deepak said that was really fascinating, because they were talking about consciousness and consciousness being in atoms and consciousness being in, and Dawkins was insisting that these things did not have consciousness, which to me is, how can you insist? It seems to me that whether he's a brilliant man with a massive amount of scientific data at his disposal for things that he can prove, for sure. But to say that that atoms don't have consciousness is kind of silly, because we don't. And the other thing that Deepak said that I thought was really fascinating was that he believes that what you're seeing in human beings, with human beings being recycled stardust. I mean, we literally are made of stardust. A star had to explode to create the very molecules that are inside of our body.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing in a human being is the universe actually becoming aware of itself in a way that it can communicate.
I think that's a beautiful idea.
It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
And I think both guys are so rigid on what their side is, especially in a debate form. And Dawkins absolutely sure he's correct, and Deepak confusing the fuck out of everybody with word salad of quantum and this and that. He just throws quantum out there like you throw salt on French fries.
Right,
I don't even know if it's the right way to use it, but he just throws it out there and confuses the shit out of you sometimes. Like, very poor method of communication he incorporates, because it's not clear what he's saying. Even though I know what quantum means, I know what he's talking about when he's talking about consciousness being non-local. I understand all those things, but he says it in such a word salad way that it's like, I don't know what you're getting at, man. Yeah. Seems to me like you're trying to confuse the shit out of people with a real elaborate sentence.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be.
And then win this debate, or make a point that's
well, it's a tough call to
win
a debate with Richard Dawkins.
Yes.
Richard Dawkins is a very clever guy. I've met him, and he's a formidable arguer.
Yes.
It's not easy at all. But he is a religious fanatic in his own way. His non-belief in the meaning or purpose in the universe is a religious idea of a kind. It's not based on facts. It's not based on evidence. It's based on his opinion, as a matter of fact, nothing more.
Well, it's also based on a lack of information. And when I say that lack of information, I mean one thing and one thing only: psychedelic experiences. He has not had them.
He needs to have them.
Without a doubt. He
needs
so
to have
brilliant.
them. I would like Dawkins to smoke DMT.
Yes.
That's the one psychedelic with which there is just no negotiation. You just don't get a discussion with DMT. It just does for you. And the other ones, like even the DMT and ayahuasca, Dawkins could resist that. But the smoked DMT, once you hit the right dose, once you pass that fourth big draw on the pipe, then there's no negotiation. It is going to take you there, and it's going to deal with you. And I would like to see Dawkins argue with DMT.
You can't. He would probably argue with what the effects actually
he would,
are, and that it's some sort of an assault on the visual cortex by various chemicals that distort perception and reality.
That's what he'd do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what it is, though, is data. And what it is an experience, and it's both things he's lacking in. He's lacking in that data and that experience.
It's data that he needs to have as a scientist. He's one of the people I would really like to see having that data. I agree with you that he would probably find a way to rationalize it and put it and set it aside, but still, it would be incredibly useful for him to have that experience because he's been so influential in persuading so many people that there is nothing beyond this material realm. And DMT is a place beyond this material realm. I am prepared to admit it could be something that we're projecting out of our own minds. There may not be any reality to it, but it feels like a real place.
I appreciate you admitting that, and I say that often as well. I think that it feels like a different dimension that's inhabited with intelligent something, whatever it is.
Intelligent something.
The way I described it is geometric patterns that are made out of love and understanding.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. I have never had a bad DMT trip in a sense where it turned evil. But I've heard people discuss like really horrific evil entities that they've run into. And I often wonder, by virtue of that, whether or not what they're talking about is something that's in their psyche, something that's in their subconscious.
Something they're bringing to the party.
Yes.
My last DMT trip, which I mentioned a little while ago, which was extremely powerful and scary. This was the time. This happened just in the 2 weeks before I gave up my 24-year cannabis habit. And I think I had some shit to go through. And I think the DMT was part. I then followed that with 5 ayahuasca sessions, but I think the DMT was really helpful. And I may have mentioned this to you the last time we talked, but what happened as I went under, I had that fourth deep inhalation of the pipe and lay back. And I don't normally hear voices in DMT, but a voice spoke to me. And the voice said to me, "You're ours now."
Whoa.
"You're ours now." And my last conscious thought was, shit, yes, but only for 12 minutes, you know. And then I felt myself being ripped apart. There were these things, these small things. I was like on some kind of table, and they were running around me, and they were tearing me apart. My body was torn to pieces. Bits were cast over. It was like a cocoon was being ripped away. And then the voice comes again. There's like a trumpet call, and the voice comes again. And now the great transformation shall begin. Wow. And it was the weirdest and strangest experience, and I was in this flickering huge space, and these little beings were running around me, and they were doing that, and I was completely helpless and at their mercy, and that was scary.
That's amazing.
But it was not demonic. It was like this is stuff you need to go through. You need to do this. It's going to be very, very frightening, but it's something you need to do. And I did need to do it, and it was helpful to me.
Was that the first time you had heard voices?
Yeah, I did not hear voices speaking to me in DMT ever before.
Wow, my experiences have been filled with voices.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Saying what?
Well, one of the big ones is it's a really like childish thing that they would say. And this is like when I was about to leave, when I was starting to sober up. It would say, "I love you 600,500,000 times."
Wow.
Like a child would say.
Oh, I want to hear that.
Yeah.
I want to hear that more than I want to hear "you're ours now."
Well, I think I came into it in a good place.
Yeah.
I was in a happy place in my life, and I wasn't scared. I wasn't fighting it.
Yeah.
But that "I love you" thing was really weird. The other thing that it said was the words of McKenna. And I think when I've tried to analyze this, I think that what it was that I had listened to so much McKenna before I'd gone into it that I had sort of stained my brain with this idea. And either my subconsciousness was saying this, or they were, whatever they are, whether they're, a part of my thought process, we're projecting this thing, this reminder, do not give in to astonishment.
Yeah.
And that was, because it was so mind-blowing. I was flying down this bumblebee-covered, like, pathway, this spinning, when I say bumblebee, not covered, rather, but colored, there was very clear black and yellow stripes of all this thing, like very bright, intense black and very bright, intense yellow, and it was moving and like, and I was shooting down this thing, and then it was saying, "Do not give in to astonishment," and it was the words of McKenna, but not in. Like it wasn't. I don't think it was his voice. I think it was like no voice. I think it was just the words.
But that thought.
Well, that's the weird thing about the telepathic thing that you get from the DMT experience is you understand the words. It's speaking to you in English, but it's not really speaking to you. It's just those things are getting into your brain very clearly, but I'm not really sure you hear them.
Yeah. I mean, here is an experience which, what a pity to go through life and not have that experience ever.
Yeah, I've said to many people, like, you're screwing yourself, man. You're really, it's scary as shit, but boy, do you get a lot out of it.
Yeah. And I mean, in my case, most of the previous DMT journeys I'd had not been terrifying. They had been gentle and healing and nice. I think that I was at a juncture in my life where I needed to make a change, and I think that particular DMT experience, followed by the 5 ayahuasca journeys, helped me to make that change, and I'm eternally grateful for that. It was a really positive and beneficial thing for me.
Yeah, it was very positive and beneficial for me as well. I think I've always wanted a change. Well, I want to change now. I mean, I always want more enlightenment, more peace, more serenity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And at that time, I think I was just trying to figure out what are the possibilities and what else is out there. And it was just this one big rush of impossible possibilities. And that redefined my view of reality itself. It was really scary, though. The last one was really slippery because after it was over, it was so intense and powerful that regular reality didn't seem real to me. And I went through a period where I feel like my ego was trying to trick me by being scared of everything. I was scared of car accidents and trees falling in front of my car and buildings collapsing and earthquakes. There's all these thoughts that came into my mind that I felt.
This went on for days after the journey?
Yes. Yeah. It's not intensely strong. It wasn't like paranoia or or anxiety. It was like this flittering thing that I'd go, no, stop it.
Right.
But like I'd be on the highway and I'd be like, what if this guy just fucking flips the fucking road and comes right towards you and smashes his head onto your car? You're dead. It was all this nonsense that was just entering into my mind. It's not just being aware of traffic and being smart, but possibilities would. And I think what it was.
And you hadn't been doing that before.
Never.
No.
Never.
Okay.
I think what it was my ego trying to regain some sort of control.
Right.
Is that my ego, by protecting me or by keeping me paranoid and keeping me very base and primal and animalistic, worried about safety and shelter and disasters and things like that, it was trying to regain some strength. Because I was so humbled by the experience.
It is a humbling experience.
Yeah.
It really is. It's one of the most, perhaps the most humbling experience that it's possible to have. And again, that's why it's valuable. And who says we shouldn't have experiences because they're scary?
Yeah.
These are amongst the most important experiences it's possible to have. I hear you use flotation tanks.
Yeah, I have one in my basement.
You have one? Do you use it regularly?
Oh yeah. I've been using them for. I bought my house in 2003, so for more than 10 years, I've had this in my basement.
Please describe the thing to me. You get into this.
You've never done it?
I've never done it.
Oh
no.
my goodness!
I want to do it.
Where are you staying while you're out here?
I'm staying in Malibu with friends.
Oh, perfect! I'll get you in if you want to go tomorrow.
Okay.
There's a place in Venice called the Float Lab. It's the best place in the country.
And you
it's
just
amazing.
go in there and float?
Yes, it's amazing.
How long
you
do you
don't
float
need
for?
anything. I like to do 2 hours.
Okay.
If I have 2 hours, but if I only have an hour, I'll set a timer and
All
I'll put a timer outside of the box so I can hear it when it goes off.
Okay.
But that's my old one. You see it up there. That's a Samadhi tank that I had.
Right.
The one that I have now, though, is built by the Float Lab, which is far more complicated. It's a really immense, huge, 7 feet tall, 9 feet wide, or 9 foot long, 6 foot wide. It's huge.
Right.
It's like it looks like a walk-in freezer.
Okay.
And it has oxygen pumped into it.
When you're in it, you're in water, right?
Yes.
And it's salt water that keeps you
I
suspended.
can't believe you haven't done this.
I haven't
Graham
done
Hancock.
it. No, I haven't done
We're going
it.
to change your life tomorrow. It's amazing. It's like a psychedelic experience,
Right.
except completely natural, completely safe, and you can end it anytime you want.
Right.
That's my new tank. When you climb into that thing,
Wow.
the water is set to the same temperature as the surface of your skin, and there's 1,000 pounds of salt in that water. It used to be 800 in my smaller tank. This one's 1,000, and
So you can't sink.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
about 11 inches deep. So even if you did sink, you can't
You're fine.
drown. You're
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And you're floating like half of your body is above the water, and as you lie there, you're in total silence, total darkness. Your ears are actually underwater. You close the lid on this thing, and you don't hear a thing. You don't see a thing. You have no input, and you don't feel the water because the water is the same temperature as your skin. So you're floating completely weightless. It's really great for your body. It feels great because you alleviate all the pressures of gravity and stress, and you feel your muscles relaxing and unwinding.
Wow.
And for me, the way I describe it is the first 20 minutes or so, it seems like a seminar on my life. It gets me to start examining various aspects of my life.
You start to go through like a life review? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, in the absence of sensory input, you know, like even while we're having this conversation, it's very quiet in here, but we're having to deal with the fact that there's computers, there's screens, there's a ceiling, there's your butt
You're
is feeling the
bombarded,
chair.
yeah.
All those things are gone in that tank. In the tank, it's just your mind. It's the only place ever, the only environment on Earth where your mind is untethered from your body.
Wow.
It's an amazing, amazing experience. And completely safe, completely natural, completely beneficial, completely refreshing. It's amazing. Even if you're not into the psychedelic aspect of it, you just want to relax, it's incredible. I love it. It should be something that everyone has in their home.
Right.
It would benefit so many people in so many ways.
Do you get into visionary space?
Yes.
You do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you get a little smoky.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So you can enhance the experience with certain
mushrooms.
allies. Yes.
Mushrooms enhance it. But although mushrooms it's scary in there. I like cannabis.
Yes.
Cannabis, eating cannabis is my favorite. I like to eat enough cannabis that I feel like I fucked up and ate too much, and then get in there.
Right.
That's those, and those are intensely psychedelic and very visionary.
Wow.
But what I like about it is you can end it pretty much at any moment.
Yeah.
When you open the door, the cannabis will still affect you. You'll still have the weirdness of that, but all the nutty hallucinations and visuals will all go away.
You just step out.
Yeah, you just step out. And you can get to that place without the cannabis as well. I know a lot of people that have really intense psychedelic visions while they're in the isolation tank.
How interesting. Well, this is an experience I have to have.
You're going to have it. You're going to have it tomorrow. Do you have a day off? Are you free?
I don't have a total day off, but I can get 2 hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll work it in. We'll make it happen.
All right.
Crash, who's the guy who runs the Float Lab in Venice, is a great friend and a great guy.
Fantastic.
He's a genius. He's the wizard behind the curtain that creates the greatest tanks on Earth. He's just a nutty dude that he's just worked incredibly hard to figure out a way to make. There's tanks. There's like the Samadhi tank, which is a very good tank, very functional. You can use it. There's a bunch of different companies that have tanks, and then there's his tank.
Right.
And the difference is like a modern BMW compared to a Model T Ford.
Okay.
Like literally.
It's that good.
Oh, it's amazing. He's just a genius. He figured out a way to pump oxygen into them. He also figured out a way to flush all the water through ozone. It kills all the bacteria. He has like incredibly intense filtration systems, 4 and 5 step processes of filtering the water. Like all this equipment that he has attached to all this stuff, nobody's rocking it like that. I mean, he takes it to literally the next level is not even a mile from him. He's gone.
Right.
He's in a place all by his own with what he's creating at the float.
And you're in
lab.
total silence.
Total silence.
And total darkness.
Total darkness, and you don't feel a thing. You feel like you're flying through space.
Wow.
Because your body is completely weightless. It's the weirdest feeling ever, but it's amazing.
You've convinced me.
Oh, I can't believe you haven't done it.
Well,
but you're such a psychedelic adventurer. I would have thought that would have been a part of your daily life.
It hasn't been. But
We got to set you up with one in England, man.
Yeah.
We got to send one over there. And send
Okay.
Crash over. Have them set you up in your basement or something. I wouldn't live in a house if I didn't have space for one.
Right.
Literally.
It's that important to you.
To me, it's massive. Anytime I've got something I'm thinking about or trying to work on or new material, ideas, I go through jiu-jitsu moves in there. I go through scenarios. I'll visually spar.
Okay.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's you don't get an opportunity to have the mind at its full resource capacity other than in that tank.
Yeah. In this world, constantly bombarded
Yeah.
by sensation of all kinds, we're torn apart. And,
I can't wait to talk to you after you
Okay.
get out.
Okay.
Have you seen this new skull that they found, the 1.8 million year old human skull?
No.
Yeah, this is an amazing discovery that they found. This first completely preserved
Can we see a picture
adult
of it?
hominid from the early Pleistocene. Yeah. See if you can pull that up, Jamie. It's 1.8 million year old skull, but it's a really amazing find, and they found it in Georgia in Eastern Europe, and it's the fifth such skull from this region. But it's 1.8 million years
Yeah, no,
old.
that's really old. That is.
Yeah, there it is, right
there
here.
it is.
Well, let's see if they have any still images of it. But these, I mean, they're completely. It's thrown a gigantic monkey wrench into our timeline of human evolution. They found stone tools and cut marks on animal bones, which indicates that the hominids were actively involved in meat processing. This is amazing.
But is it a recognizable species of early man? It has quite prominent brow ridges.
Yes, it's it's some sort of early man. What they're calling it? Let's see what they're calling it. They haven't. It hasn't received a name yet.
Have they
like
indicated
Lucy?
any idea about the size of the brain?
That's a good question. They're calling it Skull 5. It says here Skull 5 is different even than the four other skulls found in Damansy is the name, the area. It's found in 2005 and ultimately matched a jaw found in 2000 to make a complete skull. After 8 years of study, scientists on Thursday published a paper in the Journal of Science revealing that Skull 5 is simply not that different from others. The 5 Damansy individuals are no more different from each other than any 5 modern humans or chimpanzees, said neurobiologist, blah, blah, blah. So the brain case itself is very small, around the third of the size of modern humans.
Okay.
And at the same time, the
400
face is
cc,
quite
something like
large.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I need to read it. I'm not sure how much that changes history. I mean, we know that there were human species around 1.8, 1.9. Our ancestors were making tools 2.5 million years ago. So this is well within that time frame. I think what it's showing us is that there have been many lines of human down through the ages, and like this one that they called the Hobbit, Florian, this tiny little creature which lived until 18 or 16,000 years ago in Flores in Indonesia. That was completely unpredicted as well. Maybe there have been many human types, and we don't know where we actually come from in this whole picture.
Yeah, these lost hominids that they keep discovering, like Homo floresiensis and like that Russian one that they found that was basically 40,000 years old, a completely different species of human.
Denisovians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
And 40,000 years ago, a blink of an eye.
A blink of an eye.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Just a completely different type of human.
Yeah. So again, what it adds up to is a realization that we know nothing. Actually, we know very little. We come out of mystery, we live in mystery, and we end in mystery.
Have you heard of the orang pendek?
Yes,
have you ever heard of that?
This is cryptozoology we're getting into here. That's Malaysia.
Yes.
That's where my wife comes from, Malaysia, and it's a kind of yeti, Malaysian yeti or Malaysian Bigfoot.
Well, it's tiny.
But it's a wild creature, a man-like creature that lives in the woods.
Well, very similar to Homo floresiensis.
And so the suggestion is orang pendek is Homo floresiensis or whatever it's called, still alive.
That's
still
the
alive,
idea.
hanging out in the world somewhere.
It would sound ridiculous, but this let's call him Hobbit Man. This Hobbit Man was only 14,000 years ago.
Yeah, very recently, within the span almost of human history. I mean, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, where I've just been, is 12,000 plus years old.
Yeah.
They're making these massive, great megalithic pillars there. So this creature on Flores is just that period, just the same age as that. So the world was filled with all kinds of different creatures. By the way, on talking about Indonesia, I'm going to Indonesia on the 3rd of December. Because there's been a new site, or rather an old site, which has been radically redated in Indonesia.
Really?
Which is called Gunung Padang, not that far from Flores, as a matter of fact. It's a megalithic site with gigantic basalt columns. And this place has been known since the early 20th century, thought to be about 3,000 or 4,000 years old. But there's an Australian geologist called Danny Hillman, who's been working for the Indonesian government on a site survey for the last 5 years, and he's just in the last month or two come out with this explosive finding that he thinks this site is possibly as much as 20,000 years old, which a megalithic site 20,000 years old, that completely rewrites history. Göbekli Tepe already pretty much rewrites history, but this place in Indonesia totally does it. And when you take the two together, so I'm going to go out and take a look at that site and meet Danny Hillman.
What is the name of it again? Can you spell it?
Gunung Padang.
Whoa.
Gunung Padang. I may be able to show you a picture of it.
Yeah, Jamie put it up on the
That is
big
Gunung
screen.
Padang, yeah. That is totally Gunung Padang. I use that picture.
So all these stones, and what made them date this to 20,000 years? What was the change?
Okay, so the previous dating has just been based on the surface layers, and Danny Hillman and his team have been down deep into this man-made hill on top of which the surface layers stand, and they've gone all the way down, and they're finding big megaliths right down at the bottom, and they're finding associated carbon that allows them to date it to up to 20,000 years old. So this is a real huge game changer that's taking place there.
So when they date it, when they carbon date it down to 20,000 years old, is it based on organic material that's
Has to be,
near
yeah.
the rock?
Because you can't date stone, but what you
Right.
do is you get into undisturbed layers. Deep down in that man-made hill that we're looking at on the screen right now, you get down into undisturbed layers where you're finding megaliths at the bottom, covered by earth, being covered by earth for 20,000 years, and amongst that earth is organic material, fragments of bone, fragments of charcoal that you can date with carbon dating. So you can then say that those megaliths are at least that old.
At least.
At
and
least.
Most likely much older
They
than
may
that.
be much older than that, but they're at least that old. And the weird thing with this that this place has in common with Göbekli Tepe is that both of them are man-made hills, which appear to have had some kind of deliberate burial of the earlier layers, like a time capsule. So I get this feeling that, stuff is coming out, stuff is coming out into the open that's been suppressed for a long time, or ignored, or just not reckoned with for a very long time.
Well, Göbekli Tepe was a real game changer because that was the first time that they had found anything that you had to date back to at least 12,000 years.
Yeah, Göbekli Tepe is really important, and that's why I was glad to be able to go there in September and spend a lot of time just gently getting to know this site. The reason it's important is because it was deliberately buried. And what it raises is, I just want to show you this cover from New Scientist magazine. Can we show this?
Yeah, sure.
There it is.
The True Dawn.
How do we get that up there?
We'll pull it up. We'll have Jamie pull it up. Civilization is older and more mysterious than we thought. Wow, New Scientist magazine.
This is New Scientist magazine in the beginning of October 2013. Now, New Scientist was one of the magazines that attacked me massively back in 1995 when I published Fingerprints of the Gods. And what did I say is in Fingerprints of the Gods? Civilization is much older and much more mysterious than we thought. And now they come out with this cover, so I got to feel a certain feeling of, I don't know, almost smugness.
Oh, yeah, joy. Listen, you can hear it in your voice. You just get all giddy.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun to see them doing that. And the reason they're saying that is got a lot to do with Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah.
Because Göbekli Tepe it's something completely unpredicted, that what are supposed to be hunter-gatherers at the end of the Upper Paleolithic who are not supposed to have the kind of organizational skills, the architectural skills to put together gigantic megalithic circles. There's one of the pillars that I went and took a look at, which they never removed it from the quarry because they found a fault in it. It wasn't that they couldn't remove it; they found a fault in it, and that one weighs more than 50 tons. It's just a gigantic piece of stone. And the other intriguing thing about Göbekli Tepe is, which I learned from Klaus Schmidt when I was talking to him, is they've done ground-penetrating radar. So right now when you go to the site, you see 4 substantial stone circles on the scale of Stonehenge above ground.
Could you put the microphone closer to your face?
Yes, sorry.
You
You see,
I just don't want anybody to.
Yeah. When you go to Göbekli Tepe now, you see a group of stone circles, 4 of them above ground.
Right
there it is there, and what they've done is they've done ground penetrating radar. Over the site, and they found that at least 20 times as many stone circles are still underground, and possibly as many as 50 times as many. So it's just a gigantic site. And why it's important is that whoever made it 12,000 years ago deliberately buried it 2,000 years later, 10,000 years ago. So that meant that the carbon dating record has not been contaminated by later cultures. It's a perfect, pristine time capsule. And lo and behold, the date that it prints out is 12,000 years old. Now, that then raises questions over lots of other megalithic sites all over the world, which have been contaminated by later cultures. The megalithic sites of Malta, for example, look very like Göbekli Tepe. They look very like Göbekli Tepe, but they're only supposed to be 5,000 years old. I would now say we need to reconsider that evidence because those sites were contaminated by later culture. Maybe the carbon on which they were dated was introduced by a later culture. Maybe it doesn't belong to the period of the construction of the megaliths.
Well, this alone, this one discovery alone, really is a huge game changer. Because now we know that people were capable of doing something like that 12,000 years ago.
And not a task to be underestimated, because you're in an area where there isn't a lot of water available. So you're bringing in hundreds of people. You're organizing them into teams to construct these gigantic megalithic circles. You're feeding them, you're watering them, you have site planning and arrangement. All of this is the kind of stuff that you expect much later in human history. You don't expect it 12,000 years ago, and it raises that big question, could there have been a lost civilization? Could we be looking at the work perhaps of the survivors of a lost civilization?
How do we know that they covered it intentionally?
There's a deliberate infill. The nature of the earth that's been put into it, you can pretty much say here were people with spades pouring this earth in all in one go, filling it in. And amongst the earth there are fragments of bone, there are fragments of carbon, and that's how they've dated it. It's not a natural sedimentation that built up over a long period of time. It's something that was done all at once in a planned and organized way. So for some reason, and Klaus Schmidt, the German archaeologist who's running the site, is not clear what this reason was. For some reason, whoever created this place decommissioned it at a certain point about 10,000 years ago. They closed it down. And then, and this is eerie, for the next 10,000 years it remained untouched, and nobody went there, and nobody saw it. Back in the 50s, some American archaeologists were attracted to the site. They saw bits of cut stone lying on the surface, and the cut stone was so good that they concluded it was recent. They thought it must be from the Ottoman period, 1600, something like that, and they ignored it. And it was really a lucky turn of the spade by Klaus Schmidt, this German archaeologist, that revealed that that's not the case at all, and that these are 12,000-year-old megalithic pillars. And not only that, so we have this incredible innovation in architecture taking place, stone circles on the scale of Stonehenge, but 7,000 years earlier than Stonehenge, being created at Göbekli Tepe. But at the same time, mysteriously, agriculture starts to appear in that area. There hasn't been agriculture there before, or anywhere so far as we know. And suddenly it starts to appear. They're domesticating cattle, they're domesticating wheat, and it's the beginning of the agricultural revolution. So it's like a center of innovation. We're doing something unique as far as we know in human history in terms of architecture. We're doing something unique in terms of economics, producing the first agriculture. And I can't help feeling that this thing happened so suddenly and in such an extraordinary way that maybe this is the missing link, that we're looking at the fingerprints of a lost civilization, the survivors of a lost civilization who settled there with all these skills already in place and introduced them into the local culture, because this period 12,000 years ago plus is the period when the earth went through gigantic cataclysmic events because it was struck by a comet.
Yeah, and that's the other piece of the puzzle, the nuclear glass that they found. How do you say this stuff? Trinitite? And that they have found this stuff all over Europe and all over
the world.
Asia, all over the world at that precise
At
moment,
that precise
12,000 years ago.
Yeah. And a layer of platinum in the Greenland ice cores. All of this says Earth was hit by a comet at that time.
Is that the Holocene?
Well, that's the beginning. It's the end of it's the beginning of the Holocene. The Holocene is our period. It's the period we still live in now. But it's in archaeological terms, it's the juncture between the Upper Paleolithic and the Neolithic. That's what we're talking about here. And you have this episode that geologists call the Younger Dryas, which is an episode of sudden deep freeze strikes the Earth. The Earth has been emerging from the Ice Age until 12,980 years ago. And amazingly, you can date it that precisely. Give or take 5 years, this happened 12,980 years ago. And then suddenly the Earth flips into this 1,000-year deep freeze that nobody's ever been able to explain before, that they called the Younger Dryas. And now we can say for sure that the Younger Dryas was caused by huge amounts of dust being projected into the upper atmosphere of the Earth by this comet impact, and that dust enshrouded the whole Earth and set in motion a kind of what we would call a nuclear winter today, where the sun's rays could no longer reach the Earth and the Earth went back into a deep freeze. And for me, this is the smoking gun that lost us a whole civilization. And I was just yesterday, I've come here from North Carolina, and I sat down with Randall Carlson, who has been...
I met him.
You met Randall.
Yeah,
he's a very,
great
very
guy.
fascinating man.
Yeah.
And he's been working away quietly on this subject for years and years and years. Long before the evidence was in for a comet, he was predicting that this is what caused it, that there was a comet impact. And he's got this very, very fascinating theory, and he's going to take me next year on a field trip into the Pacific Northwest and into Canada to look at areas where there were these massive outflows of floods from the ice cap. And what Randall is suggesting is that at least some large fragments of the comet that hit the Earth 12,980 years ago actually hit the ice cap. They landed on the ice cap, which was still then a mile deep, and they pulverized it. They turned it into water immediately, and that's why you have these gigantic outburst floods which carry down huge boulders and strew them all over the landscape. It's a very, very exciting theory, and it's great to see Randall's work being vindicated, because he's been ignored for far too long. And I'm looking forward to doing a fascinating field trip with him next year.
Yeah, I met him in Georgia many years ago at the Punchline Comedy Club. Had a long and really interesting conversation with him about the Holocene comet.
Yes,
And
well, that's exactly what he's talking about. You see, he's one of these guys who is just so far ahead of his time that nobody saw it. Nobody realized what he was onto. Now everybody understands that the Earth was hit by a comet, and there's been a big scientific argument about this over the last 5 or 6 years. But it's really settled now. The evidence that all over the world is clear that this happened. But Randall was onto this years before anybody else. And what he's also doing is just taking it that bit further, because we have these mysterious floods that occurred in precisely that period, which have traditionally been called outburst floods. The idea was that the ice caps gradually melting down filled up these huge glacial lakes, and that eventually the ice dam enclosing the glacial lake would break. But now it looks like we're looking at ice dams 1,000 feet high in order to account for the massive flow of water. And what Randall's suggesting is that theory is actually wrong. It wasn't the outburst floods from glacial lakes, it was the comet hitting the ice cap that turned all that ice to water and produced a gigantic outflows, carrying down boulders, the size of houses, and dumping them over the landscapes. Wow. And then you have to consider anything that lay in the way of those floods, anything that lay in the path of floods on that scale is gone completely, wiped out from human memory.
And you also have to consider the fact that we absolutely know that these events have taken place on a much greater scale over the course of the Earth.
Yeah.
There's been mass extinction events, so this is not preposterous.
It's not preposterous.
Logical.
It's completely logical, and it's time that historians and archaeologists abandoned the model that everything just proceeds smoothly and gently in the way that we've seen it doing for the last few hundred years, which is called uniformitarianism, and embraced the thought that cataclysmic events are a key part of the history of the Earth. And we should know this already. There's massive amount of evidence for it. It's not something we even need to argue about. But history proceeds on the basis that there is no such thing as a cataclysm.
Yeah.
In fact, it's cataclysms that have written the story of human history.
Well, not only that, when you stop and look at all the ancient stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Bible, the flood of the Ark.
Exactly.
There's so many stories that involve cataclysmic events.
They're all about floods and cataclysms.
The idea that those are just fiction is kind of silly.
It's totally crazy. And they all say that this is that there was a golden age, that there was a former civilization, that mankind had attained to a very high level, and then we angered the gods. It's often put that way. We angered the gods. We fell out of harmony with the universe. There was something went wrong. There was some kind of moral. Yes, please. I would love some of that coffee.
This is filled.
Okay.
That one.
There was some kind of moral decline.
Like now.
This is what I often say, that if I were to look at our civilization in mythical terms, there's never been a civilization that looked more like the next lost civilization than ours. I don't want to spread gloom and doom. I don't believe in spreading gloom and doom. I think we should think positive. And I've said earlier, and I maintain this, I'm very optimistic about the future of the human race. But let's not pretend that it's all roses in the garden. The terrible things are happening in the world today. We're having unbelievable arrogance, unbelievable pride, cruelty, an economic model that makes millions, countless millions incredibly poor and allows tiny numbers to be incredibly, obscenely rich. And the whole system is skewed in the interests of that tiny fraction of 1% of the wealthy. And unfortunately, it's really as bad as it's possible to get in America. It's bad in many other countries too, but it's really bad in America, the skewing of wealth and the brainwashing of the population to keep people quiet, to stop people thinking, the mind control that operates in our society. It's like a pressure cooker. Something's got to give, and ours is a culture which is literally destroying the earth. The Amazon jungle, this amazing sacred realm, this incredible home of biodiversity, this beautiful place. The destruction that's taking place now, only a society that is truly insane could allow that to happen. And that's, unfortunately, our society today. So we need to wake up.
And you want to talk about the writing on the wall as far as a powerful, advanced civilization being completely wiped off the earth. How about our writing is all going to the cloud? We have this crazy trend where everything is going into these databases and hard drives. And when those are destroyed, there will be nothing to hold on to, nothing to read. All of our knowledge will be memory. I mean, it's almost ensuring that there will be nothing remaining.
Total wipeout.
Yeah.
So this idea that I've talked about many times over the years, that we are a species with amnesia.
Yes.
We are going to be a species with amnesia.
Again.
And our culture has not at all looked at oral traditions. We've destroyed the oral tradition. We've put everything into the written form, now beamed it up into the cloud, and one disaster, it's all gone.
And at least in a written form, you have books.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even have books anymore.
No.
We have
electrons.
auto updates.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to think that all it takes is one asteroidal impact that wipes out the grid, and all that stuff's gone.
All that stuff's gone.
You can't access it anymore. You have to rebuild the entire power grid. And if the future, if we lose 1 or 2 generations, if we had a Holocene type incident again, or a big comet hit and wiped out 50% of the population, and we had to sort of refigure out databases and refigure out hard drives, we're not going to. We're going to gather food, and we're going to figure out agriculture. We're going to figure out some real primitive ways to live life. Yeah. But most of that stuff, with 3-4 generations later, is gone.
It's gone. Completely gone. And we have these gigantic populations now based in cities where actually the food supply is incredibly fragile. It's like 2 or 3 days of food is available in any city at any time. Consider the implications of that if that supply chain breaks down. And it's very clear, we're on record now. Look what's just happened in the Philippines. Look at Hurricane Katrina. We cannot deal with natural disasters.
Yeah,
that
was a big one too, man. That was a really, really scary one.
The Philippines superstorm, a storm the size of Germany,
Unbelievable.
thousands, 10,000 more people killed, and very slow reactions to do anything about it. We are very bad. The human race, we got all this tech, we got all this wealth, we got all this complacency, but actually when the universe strikes us, we are unable to do anything about it. And that was true in the most wealthy country in the world, in America, as we saw with Hurricane Katrina.
And this is 3 times bigger than
Katrina. 3 times bigger than Katrina.
They showed a city that was 200,000 people, and there's not a single structure left standing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, by the way, there have been bigger ones. There have been bigger storms throughout history than that.
Yeah.
There's been bigger impacts than the Holocene one.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about the universe is that our orbit, like where we are, is stable, and we have the moon, which helps our orbit be stable. But there's hundreds of thousands of near-Earth objects that are just floating around out there.
Absolutely.
That could easily come down, collide into each other, slam into Earth,
Absolutely.
And that's a wrap.
Absolutely. This again is something that needs to be taken very, very seriously. Again, I want to say, let's emphasize the positive, and let's emphasize positive thinking, but let's also be rational and reasonable. And when you look at the orbits of near-Earth asteroids called Apollo objects, it's like looking at a cat's cradle of harm that is surrounding this precious jewel of a planet. And we don't even know them all. We know a tiny fraction of them. What becomes clear is we only know a little bit of these things, some of them 10 miles wide, which are winging through outer space and can hit us at any time. And then comets. Some comets can have 12,000-year orbits. The suggestion that we're seeing a lot of increased meteor activity as well right now, a lot of action going on, and the suggestion, and again, Randall Carson's work has been really important in this area, is the Taurid asteroid comet. The Taurid shower is a remains of a disintegrated comet, and in that shower, there may be huge things the size of cities, which are flowing through and crossing the orbit of the Earth regularly. It's not just pretty little lights in the sky. One day we're going to run into something the size of New York, which is going to hit us. So this is a matter for care and concern. And again, look what we do. We spend, I mean, billions, trillions, limitless, endless amounts of money in inventing new ways to destroy each other, and very little on actually looking on how to protect the Earth.
How could they protect the Earth, though, from something like that?
Well, if we don't look into it, we certainly won't have an answer to that question.
Some of them, don't they come from behind the sun, and we can't see them because of the gravity?
You can't see them come. You can't see them come. But if the kind of focused scientific effort that is presently put into creating weapons of mass destruction so that we can all fight each other, if that kind of effort were put into making sure that we understand the orbit of every single asteroid that's out there, we identify them and find them, well, we'd be a lot safer than we are today.
There's no profit in that, Graham Hancock. I don't know
the
what
danger.
You want our corporate stockholders to do. That's ridiculous, sir. Yeah. It's almost it mimics the cyclical nature of life itself. It seems like civilization builds up to this incredible point where it's like completely out of control and just reckless and wild, and then boom, gets knocked down, and then builds back up again, and boom. And it's almost, I'm not suggesting that these things floating around in space are there for a reason, but if they were, I mean, they would be like little reset buttons.
Yeah, little reset buttons.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what happened with the dinosaurs.
That's why the ancient mythology, which consistently says, right or wrong, consistently says that mankind is implicated in these cataclysms. Our behavior, our wickedness is implicated in this in some way. I think it's worth listening to that a little bit, and maybe this time we don't have to go through the reset. Maybe it's possible for mankind to actually wake up now that we are globally connected, now that we do have this possibility of all talking to one another. That before it's too late, we can reset ourselves in a positive direction.
I feel like the only way we would is if we knew something was coming.
Yeah.
I think that's almost the only way. And we would have to be informed, and then we would have to believe it. And then there would be disputes, and I'm sure the Republicans would start, that's nonsense. We'll show you right here. The same scientists that brought you climate change are telling you right now there's an asteroid heading our way.
Sadly, they would say that.
Jesus is going to protect us. What we need to do is cut taxes for corporations and ensure that we can move to Mexico with our factories. Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if we would really pay attention if we knew that we had a year left, if we had a year to go. And
Think of that. What a difference. What a situation that would be. Think of that.
We barely pay attention to what we're doing that's really obvious, like the polluting of the ocean or the destroying of the pulling the fish out of the ocean in an alarming rate that doesn't allow them to recover.
Insane. All of it about the pursuit of short-term profits.
Yeah.
All of it about immediate payoffs. Nobody thinking long-term. Again, I come back to this. We are a deranged society, and little nodes of sanity are beginning to wake up all around the world, but maybe it's not in enough time.
And doesn't it also go back to what you were saying about psychedelics and how beneficial psychedelics can be? Because one of the main themes of ayahuasca is save the planet.
It's save the planet. It's a universal theme of ayahuasca. Sooner or later, anybody who works with ayahuasca enough is going to start picking up that message, that this beautiful earth that we have, this gift that the universe has given us, is precious beyond measure, precious beyond imagination, and that we are part of it, and that we must treat it with love and respect and reverence rather than in the horrific way that we do. And that part of treating the planet with love and respect and reverence is treating fellow human beings with love and respect and reverence at every level. This is a very strong message of ayahuasca. It is a message. It is fundamentally a message of love, not in a wishy-washy way, but in a really firm and clear way. That is the salvation of the human race. Bill Hicks said it. The love is the opposite of fear. Fear is what presses our buttons today. Mm-hmm. It's what's used deliberately to press our buttons. And what's the opposite of that is love. That's what we need.
Yeah, and Bill Hicks did a lot of mushrooms, folks.
And Bill Hicks did a lot of mushrooms, and what a brilliant, brilliant man he was.
Oh, yeah, he's one of my comedy heroes.
Yeah.
For sure. There's a 19-year-old inventor who found a way to clean up the world's ocean in under 5 years' time. Mm-hmm. He this Great Pacific Garbage Patch, this young kid has figured out this machine that would absorb all the plastic material in the ocean. Mm-hmm. Really fascinating stuff. There's an article about it on this is vr-zone.com, but I'm sure if you do a Google search on that, you can find several different sites that have covered that. But it's like this machine that would essentially sit in the center of the ocean and start sucking all the plastic up. We have a huge problem with this. This plastic in the ocean is something that no one even considered until roughly a decade or so ago, when they started being aware that all the stuff that we're littering on, whether it's throwing it off of boats or it just finds its way to the ocean through drainage pipes or what have you, we're dealing with a massive amount of material, and material that's not biodegradable, that's being turned into like this sludgy sort of shitty stuff that's floating around.
It's a kind of symbol of everything that's wrong with our culture, actually.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, but is this guy's idea going to be taken up?
Well, hopefully. I mean, it's pretty amazing that this 19-year-old kid. Well, the point being that what I find fascinating is that when our back is up against the wall, like when someone realizes, oh my God, we have this country-sized patch of plastic that's floating around in the ocean.
Yeah.
When your back is up against the wall, people start thinking. When people start thinking, they start innovating. When they start innovating, solutions come about. Right. And maybe even a solution when they say, hey, you know what? That plastic is actually, you could turn that into stuff. That actually could be used as fuel. That actually could be used to create things. That actually could be used in a beneficial way. But then the problem is going to be, how do you keep people from continuing the same process and repolluting it again once you've cleaned it up?
Yeah. Psychedelics.
Yeah, it might be the only way.
The realization, the huge kick up the ass that comes with a major responsibly taken psychedelic journey.
And then there's also the challenge of our current trend in these gigantic cities. These gigantic cities aren't sustainable. They're not agriculturally sustainable.
Completely non-sustainable.
So, like, how do you figure out a way to stop the trend of these gigantic cities, or provide food, or figure out a way to be in a sustainable environment and still have modern conveniences and technology and medicine and all those,
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult problem.
If possible.
Hard to solve. But like all of these gigantic problems, if we begin to solve them at our personal level, within our own sphere of influence, within where we live, in our relationships with other human beings, that's a good start. That's where we do have power. That's where we do have choice. We cannot change the world, any one of us, but we can change the way we interact with others.
Yeah, and it seems like that's probably the best way to fix this whole mess, is to fix it on a macro scale or a micro scale.
A micro scale, yeah.
Fix it in individuals and spread it like a virus.
Exactly.
Spread this newfound realization of what we're really doing, what our impact really is, the awareness, and this sort of newfound idea of connectivity that we have, and that we're starting to grasp a hold of because of this internet culture, because of this new area, this new area in history, this new level of information.
This new level of information. That's where it's happening, and that's where I take hope. Because I meet young people every time I go out and give a lecture, give a talk. I meet young people who've come there, and they are thinking in a new way.
Yes.
The old ideas of nationalism and patriotism and all that bullshit have gone. These are people who are thinking in terms of humanity as a whole, and are thinking in terms of what a glorious gift the universe has given us with this planet, and we have to live right. There is a tremendous spirit in the world today.
Well, one of the benefits of travel is that travel sort of erodes the idea of nationalism in a way where you meet these people in these other countries and you realize, well, they're just like me.
They're just like me.
They might talk in a different accent or speak a different language, but they're just people.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why people have nationalism is based on a fear of those other people.
Again, fear is the theme.
Yeah.
And this is fear that can be manipulated.
Yes.
The powers that run the world at the moment are deliberately manipulating all the time to divide us from one another and prevent us from realizing. And amongst those powers are, of course, all of the big states and government apparatus, and are, of course, all of the big religions. Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are all in the fear business as well. They're all in generating fear and telling us that this is the only way to do things, and we are different, and this is the right way to do things, and that is the wrong way to do things. And that's the old model. The big corporations, they're part of that too. You have to rely on us. We will be the answer to all your problems. Such bullshit. That's the old model, and that's the model that is bit by bit, day by day, one step at a time, one brick at a time, getting replaced.
It truly is, isn't it? And the model of government itself is a giant chunk of fear with a little bit of hope.
Exactly.
Exactly. A lot of
and the hope is all lies.
Yes.
Yes.
And the hope is all silly. I mean, the hope is basically bullshit provided by corporations so they can keep fracking. It's like...
Yeah.
The
ghastly thought, fracking, all fear generated, and this is what we need to move beyond. Government, I think, the way we've known it for the last centuries and the way what it's come to today, it's done, it's over, its story is over. It's hanging on, it's fucking everything up as badly as it can, but it is done. That is a model that will no longer work. And
whether or not it wants to or not, it will slowly be phased out. I think that when you're talking about, it's interesting that I think that the very practices that it's using right now, that our government is using, are going to aid its own demise.
Yes.
The practices of the NSA monitoring everybody's email and constantly spying on America.
Folly.
So ridiculous socially, where people are just like completely up in arms and upset about it, but also that technological trend is going to lead to ultimate truth.
Yeah.
And that's a real issue with the government, because the government relies on deception and bullshit and bribery and
lies,
special interest
yes,
groups. And
absolutely.
you can't keep that up if you have ultimate truth, if you have ultimate access to information, and the boundaries between people and that information are all gone.
Yeah.
How are you going to run a country?
Yeah. So the seeds of their own destruction are already planted in the mechanisms they're putting in place.
Yeah, it's like they can't. It's like, have you ever seen? There's a method of hunting wolves that the Eskimos use, where they would take a very sharp knife and put it in the ground and put blood on the knife, and a wolf would come along and start to lick the knife because of the blood on the knife, taste his own blood, and continue to lick and bite the blade and bleed to death.
I didn't know that. That's extraordinary. That actually happens?
Oh, yeah. It's a method that the Inuit people devised civilized of hunting wolves. Yeah, they would plant these knives in the ice.
Yeah, and that's what our governments are doing.
It's exactly. They're licking their own blood, and they don't even realize it. But these things like the perfect example is, I don't know if you know the story in our country of General Petraeus, who was the head of the CIA, was exposed through the head of the CIA that's supposedly the number one spy in the country, right? That's the head. Well, he was fired because it was exposed that he was having an affair, and that affair was exposed through email exchanges where the FBI examined the CIA.
Right.
So the FBI is ratting on the CIA and getting rid of the number one CIA guy through email, through a transparency in email exchanges.
Right.
Absolutely, completely fascinating.
It is.
Because this is the main government entity that's involved in spying. You know, other than the NSA. And it's just, like, you guys are going to get exposed, too. Everyone's going to get exposed.
Everybody's getting exposed.
And the real problem isn't in affairs. I mean, affairs obviously are an issue, but the real problem is going to be in the structure of power itself, and when the influence is so clearly exposed, the influence, whether it's of special interest groups, of corporations, of lobbyists, whatever it is, when it's so clearly exposed that it cannot be tolerated by rational people.
Can't bear it anymore. And there's this growing anger about all of this. This is what the people in big government who are advocating this continual surveillance and invasion of our privacy in every possible way, they're not getting the anger in society. People are just not prepared to put up with this shit any longer.
And I think it's a great thing, because I think there's nothing wrong with government. There's nothing wrong with having a mayor. There's nothing wrong with having a president. There's nothing wrong with police. As long as everyone's honest and rational and ethical.
Truth is the key.
Exactly.
Truth is the key.
And they'll be forced to do that. It's not like we're advocating that the government needs to be destroyed and anarchy. Nonsense.
No. We want honest government.
Honest government. It's
truthful.
possible.
Yeah.
And if it's forced, then it's forced. Yeah. But if it's forced because of technology and innovation, instead of some crazy, radical, violent revolution, it's just as powerful.
Just as powerful. The change.
In
the
fact,
change comes.
more.
Much more.
And undeniable.
Yeah.
You can't just build up a wall to keep the internet out.
No, definitely not. No, the truth is key. This is what matters, and also those who go into government, there shouldn't be this huge status and power associated with it. You know, it's a mistake. It should be done. It should be the person who doesn't want to go into government. That's the person who should be in government.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that is how it's been for a long time. It's the people that shouldn't be president are the ones that want to be president.
Yeah.
It's been that way for a long time.
Give them ayahuasca.
I would hope. And I would hope also that the trend is moving. I mean, if you go back to these people that we're talking about that existed, these pre-humans that existed 1.8 million years ago, and the way they conducted their lives, and then look at how we conduct our lives in 2013, there's been a massive, incredible amount of progress in understanding each other, that this trend will continue. And that if we don't get hit by some kind of giant meteor, that we will ultimately reach a level of understanding that will sort of make this happen, whether or not psychedelics are involved or not. We'll just reach this level.
As I say, it's happening. It's happening now. It's interesting that psychedelics are a catalyst in it. They come up again and again in the conversation, and what it boils down to is the recognition. And I've been banging on about this for a long time, the recognition of the adult sovereign individual, that we have a right to explore our own consciousness, that it's a grotesque invasion of our privacy and our sovereignty over our own bodies, that a government would even have the temerity to suggest that it's got a right to punish us for doing that. But it's not the issue of the psychedelics themselves, it's the issue of the right to make sovereign decisions about our own bodies and our own consciousness. And this, I see a big awakening all over the world taking place.
Yeah,
it's a litmus test.
I agree. And it's one of those things where we're going to look back on through history, and the way we look at the Inquisition, the way we look at burning witches, we're going to look at the prosecution of people for using psychedelics, and it's just as ridiculous.
We're going to look back on it with horror.
Yeah,
as a horrific episode when human society made terrible mistakes.
Your book, Supernatural, is a fascinating book. I really enjoyed that. And that details the concept of human beings learning from psychedelic experiences and actually it giving birth to a new level of creativity and a new level of culture.
Yeah, I believe that, there's no doubt that psychedelics have played a huge unrecognized role in the human story. And I want to pay tribute to Terence McKenna for being one of the early people to recognize that. Again, in so many ways, Terence McKenna just an incredible genius. That stoned ape theory that he came up with is absolutely key to this. And again, he was far ahead of his time. Academics followed behind him in this. That we need to recognize that these demonized plants have played a huge role in the human story. Just in my recent travels in South America, I was in a place called Caral, 200 kilometers north of Lima in Peru. Now, back in the 90s, people were saying that there could be no relationship between old world pyramids and new world pyramids because all the pyramids in the new world were much younger. That story is now gone as a result of Caral and another site, Banduria in Peru, which are definitively 2,500 to 3,000 BC, the same date that is put on the Great Pyramids of Giza. And what's fascinating at Caral is a couple of things. Firstly, there was a big city complex there 5,000 years ago, and absolutely no evidence of warfare whatsoever. Traditionally, it was believed that, the evolution of cities was connected with warfare in some way, that people came into cities to protect themselves from war. No warfare, none whatsoever. These people did not make war. Secondly, they were using psychedelics. Quite clear evidence of this. This unexamined part of the human story needs to be brought back into prominence, and we need to realize we owe a lot to the visionary plants, and we're making a mistake to create a society that seeks to cut us off from that source of learning and that source of teaching. It's not an accident in the Amazon that they call these plants teachers. They are teachers.
And I think it's also very fascinating that the academic world has, in many ways, especially the older academic world that grew up without the internet, has turned their back on the concept of psychedelics being beneficial to the point where it's laughed at and poo-pooed, to the point where McKenna's psychedelic stoned ape theory is, if you don't know the theory, his theory involves the evolution of humans, the doubling of the human brain size directly related to the consumption of psychedelic mushrooms. Absolutely. It's an incredibly controversial theory, but when I had Dennis McKenna on the podcast, Dennis explained it in a very scientific way that would show how the consumption of psychedelic mushrooms would correlate with the creating of language, with the expansion of consciousness. It's an incredibly intricate and detailed idea that's completely ignored by so many mainstream people. But if they have had any psychedelic experience themselves, they would know what an incredibly different experience that is than the normal state of consciousness. If you were looking for a culprit, a thing that would change conscious beings or intelligent beings, like lower hominids, something that would just rock them out of their current state, what better thing than psychedelic drugs? What other culprit that you could connect to a doubling of the human brain size? I've seen it attributed to a bunch of different things, like consumption of fish, the throwing arm, all these different things. Like, don't bears eat fish? And aren't they stupid as fuck? I guess the omega-3s would help a little, but man, humans are a different thing.
Yeah,
man.
Humans are a very different thing, and I mean, I have no doubt in my mind it was psychedelics that played that role, and that was one thing that I looked at in Supernatural was this whole issue of the cave art, because that's where in the long evolutionary story of the human species, you suddenly find us confronting ourselves. We're looking at this amazing symbolic art, this incredible works, and these very mysterious, eerie spaces that you go into, like the Cave of Lascaux. And from the nature of the art itself, it's clear it was visionary art. These were people who were working with psychedelics and painting their visions, just as shamans do in the Amazon today.
Did you see Werner Herzog's documentary?
Yeah, I did.
The Cave of Forgotten
Chauvet.
Dreams?
About Chauvet, yeah.
Just, wasn't that like 40,000 plus years ago? The stuff
33,000 years ago, Cave of Chauvet.
Amazing.
Amazing place, yeah.
Yeah, just so strange to think that these people. It's so hard for us to. When you get to a number, even 1,000 years, it's like I can't see it. I can't. It's too far away. It's almost like it's over the curve of the earth. It's like 1,000 years is. It's hard for me to wrap my head around what it was like during the Genghis Khan era.
But never mind 33,000 years.
Yeah, that's where it gets incredibly squirrely.
Yeah.
And when you talk to guys like John Anthony West, that start talking about the hieroglyphs that depict a civilization, and not just that, but name the pharaohs of 30,000+ years ago.
Absolutely. There's this is something that really annoys me about Egyptology. And John Anthony West is just such a brilliant man. He's an old friend of mine, going way back to the 90s. Super guy, and he's done so much to bring to light the mysteries and the magic of ancient Egypt. And he's absolutely right, because you go to the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, and you will see a mural carved in high relief on a wall in a corridor, which shows the pharaoh Seti I showing his young son Ramesses II a list of all the pharaohs who've ruled before their time. Now, this is called a king list, and the Egyptologists, they take these king lists and they use them as the basis for the chronology that we are given of ancient Egypt, as long as it fits into their reference frame. So the king list is fine. It's accepted back to 3000 BC, the first dynasty when civilization is supposed to have begun. They then completely ignore the fact that the king list continues long before that, for tens of thousands of years, as much as 36,000 years before that. Lists of pharaohs and the time when the gods walked the earth. All of this is in the king lists as well. So the Egyptologists grab the bit that fits their prejudice and ignore the rest and say, the ancient Egyptians were just making that up.
Yeah, and then there's, of course, the water erosion on the Sphinx that John Anthony West and Robert Schoch exposed, which is really, in my opinion, one of the most undeniable things that I've heard people deny.
Yeah, it's one of the most important pieces of evidence for a lost civilization, and this is John Anthony West and Professor Robert Schoch of Boston University. The evidence that the Great Sphinx was rained upon for thousands and thousands of years. Now, what's interesting, and again Göbekli Tepe comes into this story, is that Egyptologists at the time said, look, there's no way that the Sphinx could be 12,000 years old. The geological evidence must be wrong, because if there was a culture that was capable of creating a monument on the scale of the Sphinx 12,000 years ago, why we would find other monuments that are 12,000 years old, other big monuments, and they regarded that as the killer argument against the geological weathering of the Sphinx, that Schoch and West must just be wrong. Well, now we have Göbekli Tepe, and it is 12,000 years old, and it is on the scale of the Sphinx, and it's not even that far from the Sphinx, and suddenly that old argument about the Sphinx, which was dismissed by academia back in the 90s, they're going to have to reconsider it very, very, very carefully.
That Charlton Heston hosted documentary on the Sphinx, which was on,
Sphinx,
I believe it was on NBC.
It was on NBC.
I watched it. I found it incredibly fascinating, but infuriating when you hear that Egyptologist just laughing at Robert Schoch saying, where's the evidence of this culture?
Show me the potsherd, yeah.
And what's crazy is, what do you think would be there when you're dealing with something that's that old?
Yeah.
It's what I said about 1,000 years being over the horizon, I can't see it. 12,000 years, you might as well just be speaking another language. I don't understand. My stupid brain can't wrap my head around how long ago that is.
Terribly long
and
ago.
What would be left? If you left a car outside for 12,000 years, you came back 12,000 years later, you would find zero.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
The earth would just reabsorb it.
Yeah. What would be left? What would be left would be the stones.
Yeah.
And that's what we're left with. I was just in Tiwanaku in Bolivia, and there are stone structures there, beautifully cut, unbelievable precision cutting of the stone. They look to me like they had metal parts fitted into them at some point. The metal's gone, the stone is left, and we're left to wonder what was going on there. So the passage of time rubs out all memory and all traces, and it's very easy to get the wrong idea about the past. But places like Göbekli Tepe, places like Gunung Padang in Indonesia are going to change this.
What year did people start using metal?
The ancient Egyptians they didn't
Copper
make
and
iron,
bronze.
but they knew meteoritic iron. The only form of iron that was available to the ancient Egyptians was iron that came in meteorites. And there is the odd knife that's been crafted from meteoritic iron. But the metal that they used, if you go back to 3000 or 2800 BC, was copper. But they had a way of hardening the copper. Some lost technique of making the copper harder that was definitely present.
How do we know that?
This is the orthodox view that I wrote,
Right.
because the copper was used to cut stone, and copper, you can't cut stone with copper; it's way too soft. So there must have been some method of making the copper harder. This is the argument, but this is the orthodox view. We don't really know, what they had, and maybe metal wasn't the only way to cut stone. This is where I maybe get a little bit mystical, but maybe, because our society has done things a certain way, that we use mechanical advantage, that we use machine tools, that we want to look for that in the past. But maybe there are all sorts of untapped faculties of the human mind that the ancients were working with in one way or another. Certainly when you go to a place like Sacsayhuaman in Peru, outside of Cuzco, and you see these gigantic blocks of stone, 150 tons each, fitted together like jigsaw puzzle, the edges kind of melting into one another. The notion that some sort of heat might have been used to shape these stones begins to make weird kind of sense.
Some sort of heat.
Heat, yeah.
That's fascinating. And
There's vitrified stone up there. I've in my journey in Peru, I spent several days with a local guy called Jesus Gamara, who is now 77 years old, and his father, Alfredo Gamara, was working on that site back at the beginning of the 1900s, and they, as a family, have been studying the megaliths of the Andes for 100+ years now, and they are actually descended from the Incas. So you would think if anybody had an investment in saying that the Incas made all this, it would be them. But they say no. Jesus Gamara is adamant. The Incas have been wrongly handed the majority of the architecture in the Andes by archaeology. The Incas only did a fraction of it, and most of what they did was pretty poor quality. The great stuff was done by earlier civilizations, and he took me and he showed me vitrified stone, which has been subjected to fantastic heat and melted and shines in a way that's